So I have chosen to talk about inclusion in the classroom. This is a very controversial topic, and I find that some data and opinions should be brought to many people's attention. So I'm going to talk about inclusion in the classroom, how it got started, how people such as parents and teachers think, and some opinions of mine as well. Sorry, my dog is itching in the background. Okay, so the importance of inclusion in the classroom. So let's first talk about how it's important to have inclusion in the classroom. Now, when I say inclusion, I'm referring to those with disabilities being included in a normal setting classroom, those with Asperger's, those with ADHD, those with Down syndrome, things like that. So, sense of belonging. So that's the first important aspect let's talk about. Having those students know that they belong in their class. Some of them have never seen their own peers. They've just gone to their resource room all day and don't know that they're belonging into a classroom. They don't know they belong into an actual setting of a classroom. They just think their resource room is their classroom. So included. So that's pretty much what inclusion is being included. Some students with disabilities are stuck in small resource rooms, like I said, and they never included with parties in the classroom, have free time, which leaves them unwilling to socialize with others. They aren't going to have that social aspect that they need to grow to be better adults in the future. One that I found to be very important is being respectful for all. So respect for all. This is a very important topic that led not only to SPED kids, but also students with race and home difficulties. You might see a student that comes in that really stinks or that looks really dirty, and many students make fun of them. So having them know that everyone is different, and no matter how you look, feel, anything, that we need to respect everyone. And in today's society, students are more willing to respect each other. They, at a young age, are willing to learn that everyone's different and everyone belongs. It's something you have to teach them at a younger age so when they get older, they have those morals in mind. And the last one is tailored teaching for all learners. Now, you're going to have so many different levels of students in your classroom. If teachers just teach one way, then many students are going to struggle in that classroom. As a teacher, we need to learn to include students and teach them in many ways as possible, such as visuals, hands-on, hearing. It's very important to have those different learning aspects, and that's why I would, for those youngsters that have special needs, for those people that are slower than others, to have those extra availabilities for them to learn. Next one is historical perspectives. So, it started back in 1950, the Civil Rights Movement. It was brought about then. This movement was anchored toward blacks and including them in the world we live today, but it also ramifies the part of discrimination amongst people which lead to the Brown versus Board of Education. So the court case was brought to the attention that blacks did not have equal school rights like the whites did. And the 14th Amendment was a big deal in fighting this case because it states that no state can deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. So this pretty much means that we need to treat everyone equal. That also goes into effect for special needs students as well. So that's why I brought up the Civil Rights Movement. Not just the blacks, not just race and home differences, but special needs students as well. And that's when the IDA came in 2004. And this was a free and appropriate public education to eligible children with disabilities throughout the nation. It ensures that special education and related services to those children are there. The IDA was founded in 2004, like I said, and it was amended in 2015. So, legal ramifications and controversial. I mentioned IDA again here because I want to go more in depth of how students are benefiting from this in inclusive classrooms. First off, students with disabilities more likely have an IEP or a 504. And these state where the students should be in school and how things should be done for them, such as LRE. It's a big deal under the IDA. LRE is a least restricted environment, which means many students will be in a normal classroom even when they have a disability. Many students across the nation have different views and thoughts. Many schools have different views and thoughts about the IDA rules. So, what schools do and don't follow them. I know as a sub and a student right now that I've gone into classrooms in Jamestown Valley City, and they're very good about LREs and following the IDA protocols and including those students. But I did research, and I found that on the KARE site, that schools in Minneapolis have used resource rooms for many of the disabled kids, and those kids are not getting the LRE and the inclusion they need. So they are stuck in resource rooms, and they think that's their classroom. They think that a resource room is their classroom, and the 3 people or 5 people, whatever it is that they're in there with them, are their classmates. Many schools across the nation seem to have different thoughts, but for the schools I have worked for, most of them follow their IEPs perfectly, their 504s, to exactly how they're supposed to. Now, parents' thoughts on inclusion in the classroom. Socializing is a big one. Many students aren't getting the social aspects they need if they're not included in the classroom. Inclusion. They really think that many parents think that their students are being numbered out because they're not being chosen for projects or get to be there for parties, like birthday parties or anything. Gym and music are big ones. I can't play right now. Gym and music are big ones. Most special needs students get to go to gym and music, those extra things, and that's the only time they get to see their classmates is during gym and music. Teachers' thoughts are behaviors. These students who have the IEPs and 504s most likely have behaviors. Sorry, I had to pause it. Dog wanted to play. So, most teachers say that behaviors are a big deal. That's the reason that it's hard for LREs, because those students who are in those classrooms that have disabilities are having behaviors distracting the other students' learning, and they're just making things go behind. And so in that aspect, I see what teachers are seeing, but also there could be behavior plans and things for the student as well. One-on-one teachers, as a substitute and a teacher that got to do a practicum, I saw that I had to do a lot of one-on-one work with those disabled students in the classroom because they didn't go to a resource room. Because the resource room was not the LRE for them. And so when I wasn't there, I always wondered what the head teacher did. How did this student really do his work? Because I worked with him every day. I helped him every day with everything. And so I was always wondering, what did that teacher do? And she said she just has to go over to him, get him started, and he'll have to do what he knows best. And that's all the teacher could do. And then party times, like I mentioned before, those students that are in resource rooms aren't getting to do the fun days, play times, birthday parties. They aren't having that fun socializing that they need, because they're in a resource room and not in the inclusion classroom. So some pros and cons. Teachers and schools' thoughts regarding inclusion in the classroom. So cons are those pull-out programs, such as they just leave for just math, or they just leave for reading and come back. Those can be not the LRE. Like they say, they need to have their LRE, and that's a big thing in today's society. Some other cons are distractions. As I said before, students with behaviors are gonna have those distractions. They're gonna distract the classroom once in a while, so having a behavior plan is probably a good idea. Stress can be stressful if as a student with a disability, if they're in the regular classroom, that we're going too fast, we're not helping them succeed, and they might fall behind. So also adding special needs to an already behavioral classroom. So let's say the classroom already behaves horrible. Most of them have behaviors, and then we're adding a special needs student to that. It's hard as one teacher, and even one teacher and one para, to control a classroom with behaviors and get anything done. So that's a con for many teachers in schools. And then meeting the IEP. We have to make sure as teachers and school personnel that we are meeting the IEPs, and sometimes it's hard to meet them while you're trying to meet the other students' needs. So making those other lesson plans for those students with disabilities, making those lesson plans for them, and making it for the regular classroom so everything can be equally together. Now, some pros of having inclusion in the classroom is social interaction among students. We need that social interaction. That's a big topic today, is having that social interaction amongst those special needs students and amongst those other students in the classroom. Because then they can see and view as an equal, that they're all equal no matter what they look like, no matter how they act. We are all people. And then normal peers accepting the disabled ones. This one's a very good one to have. We want those students to know that just because they have differences, that they're still a person, they still mean something to the world. Something to add to that, in my high school, we always made sure that the special needs students were homecoming queen and king, because we wanted to include them in our school, wanted to know they were something. So mostly every year, a special needs king and queen are our homecoming king and queen, which is very good. And then my opinions, it's back and forth. I think LRE is good. Now, when I go into a classroom and I sub and I see those who are struggling to keep up, I feel so awful that I can't just help them and get other students back to where they need to be, and then help the ones that are falling behind. Having a para in a classroom is a plus. And so I think if we can get paras in the classroom, that we need to do that. Also, resource rooms are good. If we have those very, very autistic students, those Down syndrome students, a resource room and a special needs room is probably going to be their best bet. They have goals, they have plans, and they stick to them. So I see where resource rooms can be available, but I do believe inclusion in the classroom is a big deal, and that we need to have our students talk to their normal peers and be social. That is my big thought, is that socializing is going to get these students to where they need to be and help them in their future life. When they become adults, they're going to be in different levels still, but being able to accept each other is what's going to help in the long run. And then I have a whole bunch of references that I used to complete this PowerPoint of inclusion in the classroom.